over this idea of that reading a large number of books or reading a book to completion as a vanity metric. Because really, when people are putting up photos on Twitter, Instagram of look at my pile of books that I'm reading, it's a show-off thing. It's a signaling thing.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And the reality is I would rather read the best 100 books over and over again until I absorb them rather than read all the books.
Right.
Yeah, because your brain has finite information. In finite space, you get enough advice, it all cancels to zero. There's a lot of nonsense in books out there too. So I don't read anymore to complete books. I read to satisfy my genuine intellectual curiosity. And it can be anything. It could be nonsense. It could be history. It could be fiction. It could be science. It could be sci-fi. These days it's mostly sci-fi, philosophy, science, because that's just what I'm interested in. But I will read for understanding. So a really good book I will flip through. I won't actually read it consecutively in order, and I won't even necessarily finish it. I'm looking for ideas, things that I don't understand. And when I find something really interesting, I'll reflect on it, I'll research it, and then when I'm bored of it, I'll drop it, or I'll flip to another book. Thanks to electronic books, I've got 50, 70 books open at any time in my Kindle or iBooks, and I'm just bouncing around between them. It's also a little bit of a defense mechanism to how in modern society, we get too much information too quickly, and so our attention spans are very low. So you get Twitter, you get Instagram, you get Facebook. You're just used to being bombarded with information. So you can take that to, you can view that as a negative and be like, I have no attention span, or you could view that as a positive. I multitask really well and I can dig really fast. If I find a thread that's interesting, I can follow it through 5 social networks, through the web, through the libraries, through the books, and I can really get to the bottom of this thing very quickly. It's like the Library of Alexandria that I can research at my disposal. So I no longer track books read or even care about books read. It's about understanding concepts.
Yeah, you brought up 2 awesome points. First of all, the social media aspect of books and basically anything. It's like, it's such a weird way to display your life because it's, you're displaying the best aspects of your life in some sort of a glass case. It's an unrealistic version of your life that you cultivate and you curate.
And I'm as guilty of that as anybody.
Everybody's guilty of it. I'm guilty of it too.
Yeah,
I pose with my dog every time I run.
Yeah, we're always signaling.
Yes.
Right? It's like rather than really looking at yourself, you're looking at how other people look at you. So it's like this one removed mental image. And it's kind of a disease because social media is making celebrities of all of us, and celebrities are the most miserable people in the world, right? Because they have this strong self-image that gets built up. It gets built up by compliments. Every time somebody pays you or me a compliment and we're like, oh, well, thank you, right? Then that builds up an image of who we are. And then one idiot comes along, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100, and they can easily tear it down. Because it doesn't take many insults to cancel out a lot of compliments. And now you're carrying around this big, weighty self-image, and it's just very easy to be attacked. And because you're famous or you're well-known, people want to attack you. So being a celebrity is no good. It's actually a problem. One of my tweets is, and these are all reminders to myself, is you want to be rich and anonymous, not poor and famous. Right?
There's benefits to it.
Of course.
But
we wouldn't do it.
It has unusual problems that you don't get trained for, and you really will not understand unless you experience it. I was having this conversation with my wife. We were talking about people that just come up to you and they don't care what you're doing. They don't care if I'm with my daughter, if I'm holding her, if I'm feeding her, if we're in the middle of an intense conversation. She's crying. She could be crying, and some bro will come over and just immediately have to take a picture, doesn't care. His needs supersede the daughter. And my wife was saying that before she knew me, she used to think that that's just part of the price of being famous, that people like you, that's just part of the price of being famous. And now when it interrupts her life and, it interrupts the children and it interrupts friends and, she's like, this is annoying. Like, this is not healthy. This is not a smart way to interact with people, and that people have this weird challenge, this weird thing that if you become famous, there's this weird challenge where people just want to come to you, especially today, because if they can get a photo of you, then that boosts their social media profile. Like, hey, I'm sitting here with Naval. Look at that smile. Hey, man.
Anonymity is a privilege. On the other hand, it's self-inflicted. I mean, we brought it on ourselves.
Yeah, I don't think we knew what it was, though.
We did, but we carry on. So it tells us we are getting something out of it. So, there are times when someone will approach me in public and I'm a little resentful. And there are other times when I'm just like, actually, I'm really grateful that, I worked for this. I got this.
Right.
This is the payoff. Just embrace it, smile, grin and bear it, meet
But
someone
you have
new.
a different sort of celebrity too, right? You're a hero amongst investors and amongst, you've just
I'm
been
a hero among young male geeks. Which is
Those are some of my favorite people.
right, but that's not the kind of celebrity I think most people set out to get, especially most guys, right? You want the cute females,
Yeah, you want chicks.
Yeah. I look at my brief little YouTube clips. I have a tiny little podcast going now, and it's like 95% male.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
Maybe,
this is very highly
18 to 35. Right?
Yeah, what is the numbers? It's in the 90s.
Yeah.
You do that one very small podcast where you just have small, like 3 or 4 minute clips.
Yeah, so what it was, I did a tweet storm called How to Get Rich Without Getting Lucky, and it got pretty popular on Twitter. And it's really about wealth creation. I just used a clickbaity title. And it's trying to basically lay out timeless principles of wealth creation that if you absorb them, you become the kind of person who can create wealth, create business, make money. And my theory behind that is like there are 3 things everybody wants. There's actually more than 3, but let's just start with 3. The 3 basics. Everybody wants to be wealthy. Everybody wants to be happy, and everybody wants to be fit. And I know there's a lot of virtue signaling that goes on, like we don't want money and, I don't care about being happy and happiness is for stupid people. But let's face it, like you want to be rich and happy and healthy.
Yeah.
Like that's the trifecta. Now, of course, you also want an internally calm state of mind. You want a loving household. So there are other things that come into it. But those 3, I think they can actually be taught. Right? And a fitness, I'm not going to teach. There are a lot of people who you've had on here, including yourself, who know a heck of a lot more about fitness and health than I do. But I was born poor and miserable, and I'm now pretty well off, and I'm very happy. And I worked at those, and so I've learned a few things. There are some principles, and so I try to lay them out, but in a timeless manner where you can kind of figure it out yourself. Because at the end of the day, I can't really teach anything. I can only inspire you and maybe give you a few hooks so you can remember things when they happen or put a name to them. So this podcast actually ended up explaining this tweet storm. So there's a tweet storm with like 36, 38 tweets, got very famous, got translated into dozens of languages. And these were principles that I came up with for myself when I was really young, around 13, 14. And I've been carrying them in my head for 30 years. And I've been sort of living them. And over time, I just realized, like, sadly or fortunately, the thing that I got really good at was looking at businesses and figuring out the point of maximum leverage to actually create wealth and capture some of that. And do it in a very long-term kind of way, not the, banker, crash the economy, get bailed out kind of way, but, build businesses and help people and provide value kind of way, especially when applied to modern technology and leverage in this age of infinite leverage that we live in. So the podcast is just explaining each tweet. So these are little 3, 4, 5 minute snippets. I don't like to say the same thing twice. I don't like to explain in detail. I feel like if you have something original and interesting to say, you should say it. Otherwise, it's probably been said better. So that podcast tries to be information dense. It tries to be very concise. It tries to be high impact. It tries to be timeless. And it has all the information. I think you need the principles that if you absorb these and you work hard over 10 years, you'll get what you want. So I've got the one on wealth creation. I'm going to attempt to do one on happiness is a big word, but happiness and inner peace and calm and all that. Because what you want is you don't want to be the guy who succeeds in life while being high-strung, high-stress, and unhappy and leaving a trail of emotional wreckage with you and your loved ones.
Which is more common than not.
Because you got to focus, and it's very hard to be great at everything. You want to be the guy or the gal who gets there calmly, quietly, without struggle. You want to be the person who's when there's a crisis going on, you want to be the calmest, coolest cucumber in the room who still also figures out the correct answer.
If you can be. One of the things that you were saying is that you feel like happiness is something that you can learn, and then you can teach yourself to be happy, even just by adopting the mindset that you are a happy person and proclaiming that to your friends. And so you've sort of developed a social contract. I'm a happy person. And then, I have to live up to that.
Yeah, I've got hundreds of techniques. But
how did you develop that one?
There's social consistency, right? Humans have a need to be highly consistent with their past pronouncements. So the way I started my first tech company was I was working inside a larger organization, and I told everybody that I was going to go start a company. I was like, I hate this place. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to be a successful entrepreneur. 6 months pass, 9 months pass. Then people start, you're still here? I thought you were going to go start a company. Were you lying? Right? That was the implication. So we kind of know this, right? Social contracts are very powerful. Like if you want to give up drinking, right, and you're not serious about it, you'll say, I'm going to cut back. I'm going to have only one drink a night. I'm going to only drink on weekends. You tell yourself. But if you're serious, you'll announce it on Facebook. You'll tell all your friends. You'll tell your wife. You'll say, I'm done drinking. I'm throwing everything out of the house. You'll never see me drink again. When you say that, you know you're serious. So I think a lot of these are choices that we make, and happiness is just one of those choices. And this is unpopular to say because there are people who are actually depressed, chemically or what have you, and there are people who don't believe that it's possible because then it creates a responsibility on them. It says, oh, now you're saying if I'm not happy, that's my fault. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that just like fitness can be a choice, health can be a choice, nutrition can be a choice, working hard and making money can be a choice, happiness is also a choice. If you're so smart, how come you aren't happy? How come you haven't figured that out? That's my challenge to all the people who think they're so smart and so capable. If you're so smart and capable, why can't you change this?